Hello and welcome to another Friday website review where we're going to have a look at how to optimize one of our users' websites. And today the topics will be about brand, design, and clarity and how to use these things to your advantage in your business. Hello, I'm Shane from Thrive Themes and I'll be walking you through today's website review where we'll be looking at the website ukbusinessbrokers.com. So let's go over to the browser and have a quick look. This is ukbusinessbrokers.com. We'll have a quick look through the home page. This is what we see here. This is like the 5-second test. We're just taking a look without really reading anything. We're just going through here, taking a look at what we see. Now, one of the first things I want to touch upon is that there is something going on here with the testimonials where a small change can make a big difference. If we go back to the site, you can see right here we have a testimonial section, and right here we have several quotes, and some of them can be very powerful, such as this one here that says, very specific, made £50,000. Who doesn't want that? That can be very powerful. But the problem is we don't actually know which one of these it belongs to. So there's basically no connection between these images and between the texts. And that really costs a lot of credibility. All right. If you have a testimonial, what works really well with testimonials is if there is a very clear, you can see, okay, here's the text and here's the person who said this. That makes it, then adding the face to the testimonial makes it real. And you can see, okay, this is a real person saying this. But if there's no clear connection, you lose that benefit and it looks much more like, oh, there's just a random collection of pictures and then a random collection of things that someone said. Also, there are no names here. And again, that costs credibility. So here, a small change in layout and just making sure that testimonials are next to images and names could make a big, big difference. The next point I want to bring up is that you want to ask yourself, what does your design communicate? And this is something that applies to any website. One thing I noticed here going through this is that just the combination of colors used here, it's mainly the combination of colors, makes for a very low budget kind of look. All right, this doesn't look like a highly polished website. This looks like something that maybe just one person put together. And in some cases that can be good. Sometimes you want to make the impression and have the image of like the strappy one-man business. And that's especially for, budget offerings and things like that. That can actually be good. But I think for something like this is some kind of consultancy for people who want to sell a business. I think here it will make a lot of sense to have just a more polished design and a more refined choice of colors to just give this whole thing a more professional look. So this is something where I would recommend that you hire a designer. Even if it's just for a quick job, you can do that on a fairly low budget. Just say, look, I don't need a complete redesign. Just go through this and make some adjustments to make this look a bit more professional. That would be, or could be, a worthwhile investment, and it would be worth testing. Now I want to run through some smaller details before I get to my final point here. And so at the top right here, one thing I noticed is that we have a logo that, first of all, the logo doesn't look very professional as well, but also it says the exit firm on a website called ukbusinessbrokers.com. That is a disconnect that I would try to avoid. Okay, it's difficult enough to get people to remember your business name and get people to remember your website and come back to it. Having a different logo and a different business name than your URL does not help. Now, it's also got to be said, by the way, so that I'm not just whining all the time, this title here, Sell Your Business for Far More Than It's Worth, is a good title, is a good heading, very clearly communicates what this is about. And yeah, this is an example of good copy. A potential issue you could have with it is credibility. So do people actually believe that you can help them sell their business for more than it's worth? So what you could test here is use a loss aversion headline against this that says, if you don't use our advice, you will get screwed over like most people do when they exit, and we will help you avoid that. So that might be something worth testing so that you have to see if credibility is a problem here. All right, then let's go down. We've talked about the testimonials. We've got some things here. By the way, on the topic of design, one problem here is basically lack of white space. You can see that this is actually quite cramped in this space here, and just adding a bit more white space could make that look nicer, and the designer will be able to tell you, what to do and how to do that. Here, another thing that I'll get back to in a second, this here, I actually first thought this was also a testimonial, and this would be the kind of layout that would be good for a testimonial, because we have the image, we have clearly, the text is clearly associated with this image, belong together, and we also have a name of this person, so that would be very good. But this is actually not a testimonial. I'll get back to that in a second. All right, 2 more details here. Join the Smart Business Owners today. Enter your email. I would try for more of a benefit right here. And this back to top button is too attention grabbing. A red button should be reserved for something important. And the get to top function is not very important. It doesn't deserve this kind of emphasis. Now, let's go back to navigating a bit. Let's look at the services page. Here, okay, starting point for selling a UK business. That again, it's pretty clear what this is about. And there's some clear text here. That's pretty good. The image here is not fantastic. That might be worth replacing with some kind of a custom graphic that says a bit more, that communicates a bit more. Okay, but then at the top here, this is fine, but what happens here as I start scrolling down, this is rather strange. So here we have 2 different background images, and both of them are static background images, and it creates this very strange looking border between the 2. That's something I would avoid. That's quite difficult to look at. And then we have another background image and seamless background images one after another. I would not do that. You can also see as I'm scrolling here, we have this stuff moving in the background, and we have a header here that appears whenever you scroll up and disappears when you scroll down. And that can also be quite irritating, especially it's not generally a bad thing, but in combination with all this stuff that's going on in the background, that can be quite irritating. Then we have a layout problem here, because here we have tabs. We're using tabs for content that's actually linear. So tabs should show alternatives and should give the user the option to browse between equal alternatives. Whereas here, really, it's a linear story, right? It says, can you do it? Some text about that. And then this is the next part. This is, yes, you can. And this is basically the wrong kind of element to use for this. And instead, it should be some kind of a linear layout. Same here, caution, why, and solution. I believe that this should be linear. These are not equal options that the user or the visitor can go through in any order. Here, these icons are, it's good to have an icon like an attention grabbing thing, but they're very shy. They don't actually grab attention compared to the high contrast here of this box against the background. We also have this text here, for example, is quite difficult to read because of the way it's on the background. For example, here we have a 4%, that's a 3rd line, very easy to miss. So you have to work on the contrast here, but it really belongs together with the whole problem with these backgrounds. I would not use image backgrounds like this. Also here, this form, we have the 2 top button down here again, and this form looks quite messy. There's these boxes within each other and the drop shadows and so on. It looks quite messy and really not ideal. Finally, let's go to the Contact Us page. And here we've got another point, and we can see that this is where I discovered that this picture here actually shows the owner of the business and the person you'd be talking to. And the point I want to make here is about attention to detail and paying attention to detail where it really matters. Because, okay, I know that I can certainly be accused of going too far in the direction of paying attention to minor details, and that doesn't necessarily need to be emulated, but this is an example where it really counts. So what we have here is a contact page and an image that gives us a real person behind this business, which can be very good. But the problem is this picture isn't a good picture for this purpose. It's first of all just not a very flattering picture, and also this picture was taken from an angle below the eye level of the subject. So we're kind of looking up at this person. The person isn't looking very happy or confident, or really, there's no positive emotion being conveyed here. And the person is also looking off slightly to our right into the distance. So the person is not engaging with us directly, but also not looking at anything on the page. So it's not directing our eye line anywhere either. And that is basically this picture does everything wrong. And here, this is, even though these are details, this matters. Every person, every human being is very, very finely attuned to faces, right? We see faces and we read a lot of information into faces. And so making sure that you have a good, inviting image that gives you a trustworthy image, to put that here as a picture would make a big, big difference. So those are some thoughts on how images and details can affect your brand and how a visitor experiences your website. I hope you find this useful, and I hope you can take some of these tips and apply them to your own site. If you enjoy these kinds of website reviews, you can submit your own website for a chance to get reviewed. And of course, you can support us by sharing this, tell your friends about it, tweet about it, and so on, because the more attention, the more traffic we get to these website reviews, the more of them we can do. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.